sports bra, and I swear to God it's not mine because it's crushing me. Sorry if the lighting is really bad. It's pretty late at night. I was going to film, but then I started watching Singles Inferno season 1 with my best friend. So now we're here. This video, I'm going to be talking about my top 23 books of 2023. I think it was Larry talk about it, and then I saw Steph do it. I was like, wow, that's a great idea. I read 150 books this year. The 23 books that I'm talking about are books that I've talked about a million times. But yeah, let's get right on into it. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. I picked these books out specifically on what books were the most memorable for me that I keep thinking about to this day, that I've grown to love more and more after reading them. Okay, here are the books. Let's start with the top. And I'm gonna go into depth a little bit more than I did in my wrap up. All right, Renegade by Marissa Meyer. If you haven't read this book, please do not run to this. This is such a fun time with the most beautiful character development. I got so attached to these characters. After I finished, I literally dropped to the floor and was like sobbing. I was very emotional with this book. I'm gonna have to read the back. I'm so sorry. I've tried to explain this and I just
can't do it in a simplified way.
It says the Renegades are a syndicate of prodigies, humans with extraordinary abilities who emerge from the ruins of a crumbled society and establish peace and order where chaos reigned. As champions of justice, they remain a symbol of hope and courage to everyone, except the villains they once overthrew. Nova has a reason to hate the Renegades. She is on a mission for vengeance. As she gets closer to her target, she meets Adrian, a renegade boy who believes in justice and in Nova. But Nova's allegiance is to a villain who has the power to end them both. Now, reading that back, that makes so much sense. Makes so much sense. I guess it does kind of have like a found family kind of aspect to it because the characters have such an intense, close bond with one another, and it's so incredibly wholesome. And at the very beginning, it's straight out the gate like action packed, and you get to know each individual character, and each character has like a specific background, and it's so in depth. You get attached to these characters so easily. And also, the main reason why I love this so much is because it was so incredibly thought-provoking. I personally am one of those people that believe that good and evil is subjective, and this kind of takes it to a whole new level, and it's brilliant. The setting, the scenery, each character also just has their, I don't know if I said this, but they're so uniquely different from one another, so where they all stand out, and it's so unique. It's so unique to me. I love this book so much. And also, one of the characters just has an intense breakdown, and that has stuck with me for so long. Then we have Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This has the same energy as a Studio Ghibli movie would have. So it is set in Japan. It is a time-traveling coffee shop. There is specific rules to it though. It's not as easy as it seems to like time travel. You can go in the future and you can go in the past, but you can't change anything. So there are these short stories. Each character gets their own sort of piece, and even though they're so short, there's so much going on. They're very impactful. The vibes are so good. It's short, sweet, and I gave it 5 stars. I love this book. This is my favorite book of the year. This was 1000% hands down my favorite book of the year, where I just felt so much. Paid it. Just an average girl in an average life. She is posing as a psychic in an elite world. There was this plague that happened, and anyone who survived, they gained a power, and now the ruler says anyone who is not like a prodigy, who is not an elite,
you're done.
One day, the prince comes into her town and she ends up saving him. What is his name? How could I forget? Kai.
Kai
is the blueprint. Kai is the blueprint. And their relationship, the longing, the yearning, oh my gosh. You were on the edge of your seat the entire time. And wait, hold on. I was explaining what this was about. And so she's thrown into the purging trials, a brutal competition showcasing the elite's powers. But she doesn't have a power, and so she's being thrown into this competition in order to survive, and she cannot be found out, and the stakes are so incredibly high, and there's just beautiful romance happening on the sidelines. It's not front and center, and it's both plots are so good. I love them. The 7-Year Slip.
I want to eat this for breakfast.
I love this book so much. The relationship in this is so healthy. There's so much communication, and that's what I love in this book. And I don't think there really is any like third act breakup, and if there is, it's like not by choice, and you'll see what I mean, because it is kind of, I mean, it's a time traveling apartment in a way. Goes 7 years in the past. She moves into her late aunt's apartment. There's like this man living there. She's like, okay, hold on.
Who are you?
7 years in the past, her aunt's friend allowed her son to stay there. Every time she leaves the apartment, it's like back to normal, like the present day. But every time she goes back, then he's there or he's not there. It's like very iffy the more you get on into the story, and it's so good, the relationship that is built in this, and the way that she talks about sensitive topics. I personally love them. Thought she did an amazing job. Loved it. Very moving. Loved it. Love periodically. There is something that happens in books that I don't see often, and it's when they just have such an emotional moment. It's like it's happening right in front of your eyes, and you feel every single thing that they feel, and you feel for them because you've grown so attached to them, and it's just so blatantly obvious as to why they're feeling the way that they're feeling. And it's also something so relatable in a way. Okay, rival physicists collide in a vortex of academic feuds and fake dating shenanigans. His name was Jack. I laughed, I cried. There's so much plot and there's so much dimension to this that I really, really love this. This is my favorite one that she's come out with. And it's just so smart. It's so smart. Then we have the Dead Romantics. I love this because of the romance in this book. I know it's a romance book, so it's like, duh. It's just, this is so special. This is so special. And I really thought, once you read it, you'll understand, but I really thought that this wasn't going to be a happy ending. I actually like when there's not a happy ending sometimes. Well, especially when it's like a satisfying ending. This was just like, I was on the edge of my seat. I was like hanging on for dear life because I wanted these characters to end up together so bad. And the chemistry was off the charts insane. Also, just the banter, the interactions were so sweet. And I love them. I love them so much. And the way it got, the buildup was so good. I loved it. I loved it. It was kind of giving, is it Ghost? I swear there's, Meet Joe Black. This kind of reminds me of Meet Joe Black, I think. It's been a very long time since I've seen it, but that kind of premise. He's her ex-boss. He's kind of like showing up at her doorstep, and he recently just passed, and he has no idea why he's there, and she has no idea why he's there. So they're trying to figure out together as to why he was called to her to help him pass on into the afterlife. So they're like slowly working on life issues. And I loved it. Talked about this book so many times. And I love this book. Not here to be liked. It says, warning, this book contains an unlikable female character. And I picked this up because Stephanie Garber blurbed this. And she has immaculate taste in books. Immaculate taste. I follow her on Goodreads and she has immaculate taste. If you've ever seen the movie Moxie, or if you've heard about the movie Moxie, I think it was a book before it turned into a movie. This one, she worked so hard. She worked so hard to become like the editor-in-chief for her senior year. And like this baseball jock, I think he hurt his arm or something happened. It was an injury. So he joined the newspaper as like a side thing, as like a hobby. And they immediately voted him in. And she worked so hard and she was so good and perfect for the job. And she writes this very long article on it, like exposing like the blatant misogyny. It creates like this feminist movement within the school of people speaking up about their experiences and just like being on her side and giving her that validation of something that she worked so hard for that was given to someone who didn't even really want it. And just because he was popular and he was like a jock and they liked him, they thought he was like a cool dude, and it had nothing to do with who was actually right for the position. And this was written in a way that was so easy to digest, and it wasn't overcomplicating things. It was just pure and simple. This is what's happening and this is how the character feels. I love this book. Check and mate. This was so fascinating. I learned nothing about chess throughout this, and I had no idea what was going on, but the romance in this was to die. It was so sweet. It was so wholesome. If you don't know what this is about, she used to play chess and she was like a prodigy, but she quit. He is like the world chess champion and everyone loves him, and she beats him at this charity chess event. He becomes very interested in her. They have this rivalry, and it's so sweet and so wholesome because he's just so obsessed with her. He's playing no games romantically. He is just like fully interested in playing chess with her. He is so smitten with her. It is so cute. So yeah, it's like one of the first books in a while that I've seen where he's like head over heels for her right away. Knows what he wants, plays no games. Then we have Betting on You. I had the best time reading this book. I recently just finished it and I was dying to get back to it every time I put it down. I honestly don't really remember what it's about. I think the only flaw to this was his bet, and it didn't make sense to me, and it also just was like not necessary, and it threw off the groove of the book. But their romance was so sweet, and their friendship was so sweet, and I loved it. I loved it. Then we have Assistant to the Villain. Funniest book I've read this year. Hands down the funniest book I've read this year. I recommend this to literally everyone because the satire in this is so funny. If you've seen the movie Popstar, and I know there's another movie where it's like kind of like a mock film, like a parody, the way that she gives like the energy of Belle, and he is like this typical villain. He thinks and talks and acts like a mix between Flynn Rider and Megamind, but he has the appearance of Damon, and his title is literally like the villain, and it's so typical but done in such a really fun way, and I loved it. I loved it. This was very character based and not very plot based. The interactions with everybody, it was just so comical, and I loved it so much. Then we have The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. There was a drama that I watched, a K-drama, and I'll put it on the screen, and it gave this exact vibe. This is a reality dating show. She's an author. He is the producer. It's like a forbidden romance because, I mean, she's literally on a dating show to find her match with one of the other guys, but he's the one interviewing her, and it's so good. The characters, I love the characters so much. Now going into the books I do not have physicals of, but that I read or listened to that I literally cannot stop thinking about. I have my notebook here. Together We Brought. I was explaining this book the other day, and I was just remembering how much I love this book. The plot is just so different for me, and I loved it so much. I knew I wanted to read it because the vibe, like the title Together We Rot, I was like, oh my god, that's so deeply poetic and romantic, and I love it. There is a romance in this, but that's not like the main concern, but the romance did break my heart in half and stomped on it and then put it back together, and it was just so gut-wrenchingly good. The plot, our main girl, she was best friends with our other main character, and we get duo POV. They were the best of friends, inseparable, like they were in love. Then her mom disappears. That she's like, I know it was his dad. His dad is the leader of the church, and there's just something fishy going on, and turns out it's a cult. He plans on sacrificing his son to the forest. It's so insane. All in this time frame, the dad's trying to get the son, and then the son, he realizes that he's going to be sacrificed, and his dad doesn't love him. It actually goes down like that. It's like Together We Rot is because from the inside out, the forest is kind of like growing within him because it's already claimed him. The relationship between these two characters and the way that they interacted, it was so interesting. It was so interesting. It was so fascinating, and I totally recommend it. I loved it. I loved it so much. Then we have The Burnout. I get burnt out so easily, so this, from the title, I was like, oh my god, yes. But like the narration, I listened to this book. Slayed. She is an icon. She killed it, demolished it, ate and left no crumbs. No crumbs.
Not a single crumb.
Our main character, she's burnt out. She is like doing everyone's tasks. Someone just left, they quit. So she is like, okay, I'm
done.
She like goes to go to the bathroom, and she's like, I think I'm just gonna go run. But it's also just so incredibly relatable, and everything that she felt was just so like, I get you, girl. Then we have The Clackety, something I just read, and it reminds me of something that I read when I was younger. I read it for pure nostalgia, and it was immaculate. If you like Coraline, if you like Danny Phantom, Courage the Cowardly Dog, you'll love this book. You'll love this book. It gives all of them wrapped up in a little bow, especially Coraline. Ugh. It's so good. She has to go save her aunt, who is kind of like the Ghostbuster of the town. She gets stolen by this evil spirit and is also being chased by a serial killer. She goes with her aunt to investigate like the slaughterhouse because she's like, I'm just getting a really bad energy from it. And then her aunt gets swooped into this portal, and then the Clackety, which is like this monster, it was like a gatekeeper. The narration was so cute because it's like, pretty Penny. Pretty Penny. And she has to get through 7 different houses. She's safe inside the houses, but she's running from this serial killer named Pope, who I think has no eyes. I think he has no eyes or pennies for eyes. And it was so creepy. It was actually quite scary to me. Definitely made for like a younger audience, but it's just like the scenery slayed. The creativity in this was just brilliant. Brilliant. I loved it so much. So many memorable moments and so many memorable characters. I loved it. So I definitely recommend it just for a really good fun time. Like I said, if you like any of those shows I mentioned, You'll love this. Then we have Dirty Like Me. I will not be continuing the series.
There's 8 books.
First one, Slade. The chemistry off the wall, rock star romance. Stars in his music video, and while he's about to go on tour, kind of like just a solo gig because he's in a band called Dirty, he asks her to be his fake girlfriend for the touring process, and I love it. Then we have See You Yesterday. I love it. It's a Groundhog Day type of thing where she is going to college and it's her first day. She has a really bad day. Like, I'm talking burns down a frat house kind of bad day. Wakes up the next day and she's like, oh my god.
What is going on?
But she's stuck in this time loop with someone else named Miles. They do not get off on the right foot. He's just so mean for like absolutely no reason. She's like, bro, what's your deal? And so they're working together to try and get out of this time loop, but they also just have so much fun with each other, and they grow so much mentally and emotionally. It's so good. I love the world that this was built in so much. I talk about this one very briefly because I do have a video on it, but also just I did really like it, and it's the Sinner's duology. I am counting both of them towards the 23, but the first one and the second one is mainly because of the setting. He's a serial killer, but she's like a struggling artist, and he sees something within her, and he kind of is not only protecting her because something really bad happens to her, and there's another serial killer that's trying to get to her that's much worse than our main dude. He's a serial killer. It's just so beautifully written. If this was made into a movie, I feel like A24 would do this. It gives like a realistic vibe, and it seems like it would take place in somewhere dark and stormy like Seattle or New York, and I loved it. The right move. Yeah, I loved that book too, along with so many other people. The right move is so good. The second book in the Win City series, Mile High, is the first one. He is a very famous basketball player, and then we have our main girl who is, I can't remember her name. She is like the most hopeless romantic. She's a rom-com girly through and through. It was so fun. She was a very fun character, but she is Stevie's best friend, and so it's like just a temporary living arrangement, and it's just the vibes. The vibes were immaculate. The relationship was immaculate. The banter, every single thing. And people say it, I know it is like redundant, but this man, I think his name was Ryan, the blueprint. Everything that he does should be the standard.
Loved it.
Then we have Happy Place. I don't know why I don't have this physically. I've listened to this book so many times. I don't really know the premise, but I know what happens. There's a romance in it, found family, fake dating, but they were dating. So they're pretending to still be engaged so that they don't like mess up the weekend at this beach house that they always go to, and it was just amazing. Then we have Divine Rivals. I love Divine Rivals so much, and and mainly because of the setting, and also it's very rare that I see, like I said earlier, I don't read many books where the man just is a total absolute simp. It was so refreshing. This entire book was very refreshing. I loved how smart it was. Characters were so good, and the setting. Also, you know what? Honestly, everything was so good. I definitely recommend this book. I just got it from one of my friends. I hope she loves it as much as I did, and as much as everyone else loves it, because it's that good. It's that good. I definitely recommend it. The last book that I'm going to be talking about, so it's the third book in a series, and it's the last book. The other books are good. This one was just beyond amazing, and the way that these characters developed, best character development that I've read in a while, since like Renegades, in my opinion. Oh, I loved it. And also the plot. The plot's great. I loved everything. And it's the Blood Trader. So in the Prison Healer trilogy, this is the last one, and it hit the nail on all of the heads for me. I loved it. I loved it. I'm not gonna talk about what it's about or what happens. You're gonna have to find out by reading the other two books. I do have a video out on, but also just I definitely recommend them, especially if you're new to fantasy. If you're not new to fantasy, it's so much fun. It's a real page turner. The stakes are so incredibly high. There was a few like things that I was nitpicky with that I wish were like reversed. Really good series. I definitely recommend it. And so yeah, gotta stretch me back. All right, well, those are my top 23 books of 2023. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are of these books, because not all these books are going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. Please comment down below your favorite books that you've read in 2023. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Later.